Yo, what's going on, people? Welcome back to day 40 of the Creating My Reality in 100 Days series that I'm documenting on this YouTube channel. Inside this video, we're going to be talking about something slightly different, and this is going to be a call out to all of you guys who are currently in the SMMA space, who are just starting, who might be still fresh out of school, who might be trying to get into copywriting because they've just seen a few YouTube videos, who are trying to offer some kind of service online. I want to talk about this right now. I was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. In fact, I wasn't even reading it. I saw the book on my desk. Haven't read it in like 10 years. Opened it up, flicked to a random page, and I just saw this. It was the first thing that came out to me, and I thought, you know what, let me make a video on this, because this is a lesson, like a big lesson that I've learned. Work to learn, don't work for money. Okay? It sounds counterintuitive, but for you guys who are starting out, I'll explain why. I want you to imagine there's two friends here, right? They're both fresh out of school, or maybe they're in the first year of uni and they're both considering dropping out, and they're thinking, oh yeah, let's get into online making money. Like, I've seen Iman Gadzi like driving around in Dubai. Like, yeah, I want to get started. Now, let me tell you like two routes that this can go down. Okay, number one, like for a lot of you guys watching, chances are you're probably trying to start an agency, right? Number two, maybe you go down the route of setting and sales. I'm going to focus first on those of you who are trying to start an agency or who are trying to offer some kind of service online when you're fresh out of school, or when you've just watched these YouTube videos and these YouTube gurus preaching these business models. I'm going to tell you like what I would suggest for you, like from my personal experience. Number one, if you're trying to start SMMA, this is probably you right now. You're in a niche you don't truly know. You don't have any confidence to book in the meetings with qualified leads, which is why you struggle, because you're in a niche you don't know. You're crap at sales because you've never actually taken any sales course before. Like, who teaches sales in school or in uni? You're fresh out of school, right? That's another thing. You don't know anything about your service. You're still trying to figure it out. You don't have full conviction that you can actually generate results with your service, and that's going to reflect into your sales. You're too attached to money, and that emotion of lack will reflect back to you in your work, the people you attract around you, the types of clients you work with. Maybe they're really bad clients if you do have any. Here you can see the game is slow. You maybe have 1 to 2 appointments per week with crap leads. They're not qualified. You're learning like 100x slower than someone who has just removed their ego and attachment to having a business that's all theirs and being the owner, being that 21-year-old guy who's driving a Lambo. You've removed that ego, okay, and that kind of like weird expectation that people have on social media these days. You've removed that, and you've just gone all in with actually mastering your craft and mastering your skill, okay? Now, let me compare this to the guy who goes ahead and actually just dives straight into appointment setting and sales. Because this is like a quote that I heard from one of my friends, and he said that a lot of appointment setters should actually be agency owners, and a lot of agency owners should actually be appointment setters. Okay, and there's a very good reason why. Because let's say you're fresh out of school once again, you've just come across these guys on YouTube. Rather than going down like an ego driven route of having your own business and, you know, looking at all of these false expectations like on social media of like all of these guys driving Lambos and stuff like that. Yeah, it's cool. Like, I'm not saying like don't get after that. Like that stuff is sick, but there's a certain level of attachment that comes into play as well, which can keep you stuck in this loop. Okay, so let's talk about the guy who dives into setting and sales. Here you can see this guy, and once again, both of these friends, they've both just come out of school or whatever. They're both starting at the same time. Okay, I want you to picture this on like a 3 year time scale. This guy who's gone into setting and sales is getting trained by someone who understands the niche that they're setting or selling in inside out. Okay, the person you're working with in that team, they're going to be teaching you the offer. They're going to be teaching you exactly how to sell it as well. Okay, because they understand the niche inside out. Okay, and that's going to collapse the time that it takes for you to figure all of this out yourself on this side of the story here. All right. Next thing is you're going to have hundreds of touch points per month with qualified leads. Okay, you're going to be having like 5 to 8 sales calls per day, one to one, where you're actively trying to sell people on the service that you're working for or on the offer that you're working for. Okay? Compare that to the guy here who's only getting 1 to 2 calls per week. Who's going to be learning a lot quicker? The guy in sales and setting. And you have no choice but to show up every day and get better when you're working on a performance basis as well, because it's down to you to produce your own results. So you're going to show up with high energy. You're going to show up and you're actually going to learn every day to improve, because at the end of the day, in order for you to eat, you need to be performing, right? Next thing is this guy here has removed emotion and attachment to each lead because in their mind, because it's not their business, right? If the service sucks, if the offer sucks, it's down to the owner, not you. If you can still sell, then you're still winning, right? And once again, you can see here, like this person on the other side is too attached to money, and that emotion of lack is reflected back to the 1 to 2 appointments that they book in per week, and therefore they don't close anything, right? And here you can see you can still make 10K plus per month, which all of these gurus are preaching, have a super streamlined operation, in fact way more streamlined than an agency because you have far less responsibility, still travel the world, right? You're still going to be winning, okay? And if you really wanted to, 2 years down the line, you could transfer those skills into any business that you want. Whether you want to start an agency, whether you want to start coaching, do what you want. Those skills of sales or marketing or whatever route you choose to go down are going to transfer to absolutely anything, right? Because, yeah, like, trust me on this. Like, when you're on one-to-one sales calls every day, don't even view it as you trying to make money. View it as you trying to give. Okay, like give to receive, and I'm going to dive into this in just a second. And here you can see as well, the final thing is you're actually building massive confidence and compounding that confidence within yourself, because you're learning and improving your skills every single day and actually increasing your value in the marketplace. The person who's had 1,000 sales calls that are with qualified leads and closed way more deals is far more valuable than the agency owner who's had 2 calls per week with crap leads who hasn't really learned anything. Right? Remove your ego if you're stuck in this loop right here. Now, I'm not saying you can't be a successful agency owner within like 6 months. I'm just saying this is a common loop that I've seen with so many people now that I just felt called to make a video on this, right? So how do you overcome this, especially if you're on this side of the equation? How do you overcome this? Once again, work to learn, give to receive. If you want to collapse time between you and your goals as an agency owner, remove attachment to the money, remove the emotion of lack, work on learning your service every single day, work on mastering the game of sales, relentlessly go out there and book in appointments for yourself, because at the end of the day, if your calendar isn't full, you're not making money, my guy. So you need to be booking in appointments. That's how you overcome it. Detach from the money. Like if you're in this loop right now and you're still asking for like 5K per month, but you're like retainer from a client, and you don't have any confidence, you're operating from lack. Like, imagine the guy on the other side of the screen. He's looking at a guy who's fresh out of school, isn't confident in what he's selling, doesn't really have a clue about the niche or the industry. Why would that guy want to come with you? Why would that guy want to work with you, right? You need to work on yourself first before you even actually go ahead and think about scaling or think about, growing your own business. And this is where like sales is such a great way to go ahead and overcome all of these initial limiting beliefs that a lot of people face when they're trying to grow their own business or their own agency, especially when they're a younger guy or a younger girl new to the game. It's like sales is just like constant feedback loops. You have constant feedback loops. If you have 5 calls per day, you've got 5 feedback loops per day to level up and progress and become even better, right? Whereas this guy on the other side, still stressing about service, still stressing about blah blah blah. His attention's focused on like 5 different things, 5 different outreach channels. Then he's got to get on the call, then he's got to deliver the service. Like my guy, your energy's all over the place. You're scattered all over the place. Agency isn't the only way to make money, bro. Like, there's so many ways. So I'm not hating on the agency space, because funny thing is, I'm actually starting to look back into the agency space for myself. I've actually dedicated like the past 2 years to setting and sales, but now this is where the interesting part comes into play, Because on a 3 year timeline, if you compare a guy who's been grinding, trying to grow an agency for 3 years, hasn't really worked on himself either, constantly struggling, is still like working a part-time job, hasn't really gone all in with it, versus a guy who has literally dedicated 2 solid years to focus on learning on sales, sharpening his sword, learning an appointment setting, mastering himself, getting like 1,000 times the reps in. If that sales guy started his own agency by the end of year 2 of this guy trying to grow his agency from scratch, I'm fully convinced this sales guy would outperform the agency guy by the end of year 3. I can tell you that for a fact because I've dedicated the last 2 years of pretty much my life to setting and sales. And right now, I have full conviction and literal evidence. If you guys are watching this and you want the evidence, literal evidence of booking in like 4 to 5 appointments per day for myself, literally just becoming my own rainmaker. And I have full confidence that I can do that for any business at this point because I've done it, right? Whereas this guy, this guy who's been struggling and still is operating from a place of fear, from a place of lack, from a place of doubt, versus this guy who's operating from a place of conviction, a place of, joy, a place of happiness because he's serving, he's learning, he has confidence. Who's going to win? I'll tell you for a fact, it will be this guy who just removes ego. And even Rich Dad says it here, work to learn, don't work for money, right? I want to leave you with this, which is how growth really happens. Most people think growth happens linearly, and they think that over time, within 1 year, they're going to be at 100 grand, 2 years, they're going to be at 500, within 3 years, they're going to have a mil stacked up in their account. Trust me, it doesn't work like that. Like, I want you to do this right now. So pause this video if you don't believe what I'm saying. Go onto Google, search up Jeff Bezos net worth, search up Elon Musk net worth, click on max on the graph, and you'll see the chart looks exactly like this chart here. Over time, you can see, and you'll notice this with your own growth, after 1 year, maybe not much will happen. After 2 years, maybe not much will happen. But after 3 years of consistently acting in alignment with your higher self, something like this, results are going to start to show. And they're going to show massively. And things will just pop off out of nowhere in ways that you can't even imagine after just committing to learning and leveling up after a solid period of time. This can happen on a smaller time frame as well. It can happen over a 21-day time frame. It can happen over a 90-day time frame, maybe just 1 year. But like I said, go onto Jeff Bezos' net worth, go onto Elon Musk's net worth. This chart is literal proof of how like your skills and money and results just compound over time. So I guess like the big story of this is like, detach your ego, work through those like emotions you initially have to raise your state of energy so you can actually show up every day regardless of what business model you're in, and actually operate from a high frequency and therefore attract a lot more to you in terms of opportunities, in terms of progress, in terms of your own self-growth. And yeah, like look at this on a long-term time frame as well, because like even just detach time from the entire scenario. Because once again, like if you're so focused on getting a specific goal by a certain time frame, you're placing too much importance on that, and therefore you're confirming to yourself that you don't have that thing, and therefore you're going to be far less likely to receive it, right? I've actually made a video on this. I think it's my last video, or one of the videos, like 2 videos back. So yeah, I hope this makes sense. If it does make sense, let me know in the comments. If you wanna, if you think the exact opposite, let me know in the comments as well, because I'd love to hear. This is just my paradigm and what I've seen work for me and what I've observed from the people around me as well. So appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you in the next one. There's gonna be a lot more videos coming out like this, and yeah, thank you guys.